Our English language is full of descriptive terms and words. And 4 of these words are steadfast, loyal, faithful, and devoted. And these are words that we use to describe a person or a relationship that we can always count on no matter what the circumstances or the situation. Today, we use a term that was originated in 10th century England to describe this type of a relationship. You see, when people would travel by foot, they would sometimes have to traverse woods without the benefit of any kind of a semblance of a road. So they were literally going through the woods. And because the density of the underbrush would vary, they talked about going through thicket and thin, which over time became through thick and thin. And hence our modern day reference to someone who will be with us through good times and bad times. Now, I'm not a sociologist, but I think that the hope for someone who will stand by us, stand with us through thick and thin, is a universal one. And the hope and the dream that someone will be there for us even shows up as a promise in our sacrament of matrimony. The 2 people say this: I promise to be true to you in good times and in bad, in sickness and in health. I will love you and honor you all the days of my life. Someone who will be there through thick and thin. You know, if we have such a person in our lives, we are very fortunate. Indeed, we're blessed. And all of us do have someone in our lives, whether we really realize it or not. And of course, that person is Jesus. Our gospel writer today, John, more so than any of the other 3 gospel writers, is bent on revealing Jesus as the Lord of steadfast relationships. The word remain is repeated 17 times in his gospel. And in the first 8 verses of chapter 15, it is repeated 8 times. Jesus must and will remain with us so that we might have life and have life abundantly. And without the vine, the branches will surely die. Jesus will remain with us, his community, one way or another. And one way is the ongoing celebration of our Eucharist. Jesus is with us in the most intimate of ways when we eat his body and drink his blood. We receive his very life. He also remains with us when the Spirit comes to stay with us when we gather as believers. And he also is with us when we see him in each other. This indeed is the good news, that Jesus will never abandon you. There is nothing, absolutely nothing on the face of the earth that can drive Jesus away from you. He is along every step of the way, and he is with you through thick and thin. You see, Jesus knows what it is like not to have friends in hard times. Jesus knows what it is like to be abandoned by friends. And he knows what it is like even to be denied by his friends. Jesus will always, always be with you. You know, it's easy to recognize Jesus in the good times, when he's with us in those good times. Births and baptisms, and next week, First Communions, celebrations of good fortunes, the joyous occasions, the happy times. It is not as easy to recognize his presence, though, in the rough times, broken relationships, illness or death, the sad occasions of life. And in our anguish, we ask a very human question. Jesus, where were you when I needed you the most? A very, very human question. Jesus himself asked this on the cross. My God, why have you abandoned me? Well, Jesus was praying the 22nd Psalm. But he was asking, where were you when I needed you the most? You know, we don't recognize Jesus immediately sometimes in those difficulties. And it may take a retrospective of maybe months or weeks or years before we finally do recognize that Jesus was in fact there with us in those hard times. But our faith tells us that Jesus was indeed there. And we pray for the grace to see it. There's a very familiar story that illustrates this point. You may have heard it before. And it's called Footprints in the Sand. You even have little pictures of it with the poem right underneath the pictures of footprints on the beach. Well, the story is about a dream. The person is having a dream and they're walking along with Jesus, reviewing their lives of those times when Jesus was there. And there were two sets of footprints in the sand. And the person finally says, Jesus, I don't understand. When I needed you the most, where were you? I only saw one set of footprints in the sand. And Jesus tells that person, well, of course I was with you, because when you only saw the one set of footprints in the sand, those were the times when I was carrying you. Hence, only one set of footprints. Way back in 1969, a lot of us can remember 1969 here. There was a one-hit wonder by Norman Greenbaum called Spirit in the Sky. I tried to get Father George to sing it this morning, but he just wouldn't do it. So, anyway, there was a line in that song that said, I got a friend in Jesus. And indeed, so we do all have a friend in Jesus. A friend who is steadfast, loyal, devoted, and faithful forever. Happy Easter.